and Mark Lubkowitz, Professor of Plant Biology.
And tonight we're going to share with you a project that we've been working on for 10 years called the Teaching Gardens of St. Michael's College. It is an interdisciplinary outdoor learning space that was created in collaboration between and everything that we're going to show you tonight, including the weeding and the watering, was done by our students. And many of these students have had the opportunity to write essays after weeding for 3 hours in the sun. That was the difference between work and play. So the first garden that I'm going to share with you this evening is called the Native Plants of Vermont Garden. And before I launch into the actual garden, I'd like to point out that all of the plants in the garden are labeled, both the common name and the Latin name, for those of you who collect those sorts of things. And all of the gardens themselves, all four of them have a title stone that was created by our artistic partner, whose name is Chris Clary, and he has a studio in Jericho called On the Rocks. The Native Plants of Vermont Garden contains plants that are both native and naturalized to New England. We don't discriminate just to Vermont. And we have a couple different ecosystems represented. This is the Meadowlands ecosystem, and off to the right here is our Woodlands ecosystem. And I'd like to call your attention to one of our favorite benches that Chris made that we call Baked Potato. The second garden that we're going to share with you this evening is called the International Garden, and we're showing this image to help you explain it. So it's circular in nature. It has a path that's parallel to the equator. It's broken up into 4 quadrants, and the continents are placed in those quadrants. So if you're standing in the top right in Asia, you would find only plants that grow in Asia. And so if you're standing at the bottom left, you find plants that are from South America. So these are students that are standing on the equator. The ones in the center, all those plants are from Africa. Over here to your right, these are from South America. And for reasons that we've yet to be able to explain, when you stand in the very center, things like that.
We also planted polar ice caps of white alyssum, and we plant less and less every year. The third garden is the word garden, and unlike the other two, there's no plant material, just words. So like magnetic poetry, where you can move words around, each of the words is on a separate stone, different font, different kind of shape, and you can go and create messages, marriage proposals, anything you want. Here we have a visiting 4th grader who is counting syllables so that she can create a haiku that she's going to leave there for other people to see.
Okay, I have to out Valerie at this point. So Valerie is what I call a strategic parker, which means that she parks as far away from her office as she can, so she has to walk through the teaching garden every morning with her camera. And over the years, she has managed to capture the gestalt of the student body of St. Michael's College. So evidently, sometimes they stress. I can't imagine why. They need some help with their diets. In all seriousness, our students were very proud of their they think beyond the gates of St. Michael's College. And for those of you who know the bands, they might be Giants. 7 did. Like 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9.
Yeah. So the beauty of having those movable stones is you can create what you want, but the downside is that sometimes they move out of the garden. So we keep an eye on Ninja, Jedi, and Weed disappears a lot. We also asked Chris to blast some checkerboards, so you could go and play a game of checkers, and we had him cut a boulder and mount an antique slate chalkboard from an old Vermont school. And we see graffiti and more powerful messages. This one I found the morning after the Boston Marathon.
So this next image is actually one of my favorite that Valerie has managed to capture over the years. It's the one on that side. And if you look at the bottom, it says, "Test your brain." It was written by a math major. I see many of you are doing the calculation right now. And the joke's on you because it's unsolvable, and only a math major would know that. So shake your leg. And we have some artistic ones also, but the math one really caught me.
So this is the 4th garden. It's my favorite because I'm a children's literature fanatic. And it's called Books in Bloom, and it's called that because every flower in this garden is in a children's book. So, for example, how many of you have read Harry Potter? So be thinking, what are some of the flowers in that book? So you might think about where Harry grew up, being raised by the Dursleys. Privet Drive, so we've got Privet in there. He also has So these are not showing up for some reason. They're supposed to be coming in, but I'll just tell you. Oh, okay. We've got petunia for his aunt, more ethereal flower, a lily for his mother, and Mark's students identified lupin as another flower we should put in this garden. So here's where we get the inspiration for that garden, the Books in Bloom garden. We've also got thistle for Winnie the Pooh, because Eeyore ate thistle, and poppies from The Wizard of Oz. So here's what it looks like in the garden. Here's the swath of petunias for Aunt Petunia, the scraggly hedge in the back.
Screaming Mandarin bit, right there.
That's right. So that's privet, and in other places we have a blueberry patch for blueberries for Sal. We have, what else do we have?
So one of the exercises that we do with our classes, we take them out to the teaching gardens and we give them children's literature and we ask them to deconstruct it from their perspective lenses. So if you're in my class, what you're doing is you're looking for the biology in the story that's used as a literary device. Books are not about biology. Biology is a literary device.
And I ask my students to think about the role that the flower is playing in the book. So some of you may know Miss Rumphius. She is charged with making the world a better place. And she comes to the realization that she can use flowers to do so. And so my students come up with the idea that the theme of the book is to make the world a better place.
And when my students read this book, what they say is this is a very well-intentioned individual who is spreading exotic invasives. Yeah. A very different message from the savory.
But we don't leave it at that. We ask them, okay, so what? So you've identified your two funds of knowledge here. How can you combine these to interact with people in the garden in a way that you couldn't have done on your own? So we invite different audiences to come to the gardens, and we have a visiting day in the fall. You can all come. And so here's a plant biology student who's got his children's book there, and he's giving this woman a tour of the garden and explaining both the literary connections and the botanical background. And she just happened to be the curator of a garden in Central Park in Manhattan, and she was a very good sport about it. Additionally, we have the students, they have to work really hard to engage 4th and 5th graders who can be a tough audience. So this is a group of 4th and 5th graders from Champlain Elementary School, and the plant biology and education majors have created botanical scavenger hunts and literary activities for them. So when I look at a garden, I see layers. I see characters, I see narratives.
I see carbon partitioning, I see powder mildew, and I see life cycle in action.
But these gardens are just across the river at St. Michael's next to the theater, and we would love to have you come and spend some time.